To be fair, this is going to be a low energy.
It's low energy.
Because I woke up late.
Yeah, I
turned my alarm off. I didn't even know I'd done it. I didn't even know I'd done it, mate.
Harrison opened the door and was like, "You're early." I was like, "Nah, mate, I'm on time." He's like, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah. We'll start a podcast about RPGs in a minute, but can you play... So, the other day after the game finished... Sean's not here, by the way, because he's got a real job where he looks after people with conditions.
Welcome to the 3 voicemail service. Saved voice messages. Message from...
Right, there's Scotland. There's like some actual UFO actually grinding out here. There's some red shit in the sky, and yeah, like look outside. Yeah, like there's some UFO grinding. Bye.
The end is quite good. So
It doesn't even end. Listen, it just goes on. You can just hear him walking.
Oh, this also explains... Okay, so he didn't even hang up. But this also explains, because this was after the game on Thursday, and he was drunk and he was walking home, but he video called me, and I didn't know why, but I was walking home and I had to go for a piss at the garage, and I obviously answered it in my pocket. When I got it out, I could just see someone's face. But he was obviously trying to show me the UFO activity. It's sad that we've got to a point now where I can't tell if Sean's being serious or not.
I know.
There's some red shit in the sky, squaning.
Fucking hell, mate.
Fucking
Sean,
hell.
sort your life out.
But yeah, he's not here. So let's start the podcast. Yeah, this is an RPG show all about tabletop RPGs. You're listening to the 3T RPG podcast. My name's Harrison Hunt. With me, I've got the big boy.
James Clark, what's up? How's it going? How's it hanging, fellas?
How's it going? Yeah. So, today we've got feedback, we got news punch, we got what the fuck are you doing? And then we've got the main subject. We're going to talk about maps and minis.
Maps and minis. It's going to be an amazing modcast.
And then we got some Jim Bim Salabim. I've done an item for a change, followed by electro letters. And if you don't know what Jim Bim Salabim is, well, get ready for disappointment.
Yeah, get ready for absolute disappointment.
The feedback side. The feedback side. Yes.
So we had a lot of feedback, and the first one comes in from Captain Smuggles. So last
Cute
episode,
name.
Yeah, he's very, but sadly not a cute person.
And in prison because he smuggles stuff.
Yeah, that's right. So so he essentially was talking about Sean's debut as a main subject doer, because Sean was in charge of the main subject last episode, and he says, "Congratulations to Sean on the debut. I was laughing the whole show. My question is the incessant torture of a man while he presents the main subject just a hazing ritual that he has now emerged from like a newborn calf, or will this be the new tone of the show going forward until such time he has a violent episode on air? Either outcome works for me, so keep it up." Well, some people think we bully Sean.
I mean, we don't, but
if we did, he
did,
deserves it. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Like, but actually, I think shut the fuck up. If we bully Sean, what the fuck has he got to do with you?
Yeah, exactly. He's our gimp.
Yeah.
The Buttman, he says, listening to the Adam Coble episode, all things considered, good job, Sean. I thought, as it started, that this would be a multi-part episode, but then saw it was only 90 minutes and realised that at some point they will let him speak. Yeah, it was a little bit out of order. You know, he kept trying to start, and I was like, so what about crop circles?
Oh, yeah.
Poor guy. No, we probably won't continue hazing him. He's here, but it was quite fun to do so. So, I don't know. The trouble is, what I've noticed, whenever, and I can't control it, but whenever we have a guest on, and it's not my turn to do the main subject, I kind of feel like it's a bit of a holiday, and I'm an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same with Owen on his episode when he was trying to talk about Deadlands, and I kept on talking about skeletons the whole time.
But it's also the same in person, because like when Sean was GMing our last game, we'd just be like, yeah, what's your move GM?
Yeah, I would do something crazy and they'd be like, your move GM. But it's now got to the point where I think that attitude has spilled over a little bit into my game.
Oh, mate, Sean does it hard back now. So
I sort of deserve
taste
it.
your own medicine.
Yeah, I do deserve it. But still, anyway, it's like my dark, gritty cyberpunk campaign.
Yes, mate.
It's getting a bit silly, but yeah, CJ the Big Boy, he says, regarding Dungeon World, the co-creator Sage Latora does not seem to be a gaslighting creep. The concept of fronts in the GM section of the book pairs well with the lazy DM approach. I've run Dungeon World a half dozen times and really enjoy it, but I'm no longer doing demos for it due to the association with COBOL. So, yeah, fair enough, right? But this is probably a much bigger question than we have time for, but how much do you think you can separate? If you found out, say, for example, not even related to RPGs, let's say, for example, you were a big Lost Prophets fan.
Oh, God.
Right? Do you know, is there a point where you can disassociate the person from their music? Because you're also quite a big Michael Jackson fan, right?
I enjoyed Michael Jackson songs.
But so do I.
Yeah.
I do think to an extent, like, you know,
I feel like
Michael Jackson to an extent was a genius. Let him have a couple.
Yeah, a couple.
You know?
Yeah, even though he's a really bad person.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's
I think it's one of those things where it's just time-based. Like, you're going to feel uneasy. You know, like, say, when the Lost Prophets thing happened, it's not like I was an avid, like, listener, listen to them every day, but it was kind of like, you know, they'd come on, you'd just turn it off straight away because of the association
I can't
factor.
not think about it.
Yeah, but now, like, I think if a song came on randomly, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I remember, like, I enjoyed this song, like, once before, so it's okay.
But they did have one really good tune, and I've tried to listen to it recently, but it's just like, yeah, I don't know, it's just like, because it's the extent. You know, Michael Jackson, at least it wasn't like a bait. No, we can't know, right? But here's the thing. We know somebody that was a huge Lost Prophets fan and was thinking about getting a tattoo of them, so I'm pretty glad that he didn't.
Oh, yeah.
But that incident sort of, it did cement that I should never, ever get... Because probably my favourite band ever is probably Rammstein, right? But I don't think I could ever get a Rammstein tattoo, because even if in the future... Now we're at the point where even if they're dead, 40 years later, we could find out.
Yeah, true.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's true.
But so I don't know. Adam Coble is an arse, but Dungeon World, from all accounts, is quite a good game. So maybe just forget about it. I've got stuff on my shelf from people that I think are pretty shit people. Is that my cat? Yeah. No, that's a child outside. That's a kid outside. My cat's just sitting in the hallway, perfectly chill, but I can hear.
Yeah, we thought it was trying to get in.
It's either that or a hideous bird. But yeah, I don't know. Play Dungeon World if you like it. I mean, he wrote it ages ago, and it's not like he's making any profit. Actually, is he making profit off it now? He probably is. Don't buy it.
Yeah, stop buying it.
Stop buying it.
Beat it.
Actually, yes. Oh, that's. We should just end the episode there. That's the closest thing approaching a joke we've ever done. News punch. D&D 6th edition coming, but it's not 6th edition.
What?
So recently, right, there was this thing called the D&D Celebration 2021.
All right, what's that? Sounds nice.
It sounds nice, but actually, it's very racist.
Was it? Is it?
No.
Oh.
It's literally just like a sort of panel with all the current D&D bods, like the people that work at Wizards of the Coast.
Was it a money grabbing scheme, or was it?
Well, I mean, almost certainly. But it's basically them announcing new products for like Magic the Gathering, D&D, and shit like this. Anyway, they revealed that the 5th edition core D&D rulebooks are going to get upgraded as part of the 50th anniversary celebrations for D&D. This means that the Player's Handbook, DM Guide and Monster Manual will get new updated versions in 2024.
It's quite a while away.
So, Wizards of the Coast, they basically said that the new shit is going to be compatible with all the old shit and will basically serve as a reprint with some updates rather than a full new version of the game. Now, this is really boring, but there are some rumours about it that are kind of funny that I think are worth speaking about. So the main one is that, now bear in mind, these are just rumours. I couldn't actually find anywhere confirming it, although certain people have said that it's definitely happening. But the main one is that they're removing racial bonuses entirely, completely. So instead what will happen is it will say generally dwarves are short and fat. However, you know, do what you want with it. And instead of saying, you know, all dwarves get +2 to Constitution, it will be like you have a +2, stick it in whatever stat you like. What's interesting about this is it says, you know, they tend towards a certain build. So you could be a really tall gnome.
You could really tall and slender gnome.
Or a short, fat, ugly elf.
Mate, I'd love to see one of them.
The idea of playing a 7-foot gnome just amuses me to like no end. Because I imagine his legs, his tiny legs will still be really tiny. But he's
What, so
just
his
the
body-
torso is like really long.
Imagine he's still got small arms as well.
Like the penalties still apply. Like he can't use two-handed weapons because he's just got...
But he can use a one-handed weapon, but it will never reach because he's too high above them.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. I think it's kind of a stupid, meaningless change. I do get why they've done it because of mounting pressure from people. But, you know, I think it's fine. I think it's fine because it's their game. They can do what they want with it. If you want to play D&D, just play the old version. But the thing about it is that, like, the removal of those bonuses, but let's just bear in mind, right, it's not racist, because they're not real races.
They're still fantasy. That's the whole point in it. They are
It's a
literal
gnome.
creatures.
They're things that live in your front garden and are made of ceramic.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I think it's kind of silly, and it's not as if they're going, you know, like black people are worse at this. Or
No, not at all.
It's a gnome, mate. So they're little men that live in caves with tiny arms. Don't worry about it. Actually, I think I might have said this on the podcast. Funny story. I used to work with a woman who was like the most racist and most judgmental, horrible person ever. And she used to say, "Oh, I hate midgets. I can't stand midgets. Oh, they scare me," and stuff like this. And she was watching.
That's so out of order.
I know, it's awful. And she was watching a program about, and they're called, you're supposed to call them dwarves now, right? But she was watching a program about some dwarves, and she was just like, "Oh, I watched it last night, it freaked the fuck out of me." And she was like, "It's a program all about gnomes."
Oh, no.
Right?
Oh,
And I
no.
said, "Lisa, they're not called gnomes." And she went, "Oh, sorry, gnome people then." Doing
Oh, my
fucking
God.
funny, man.
Wow, uneducated.
Yes, she was an idiot. But yeah, so gnomes. That's what we call them now. But yeah, so that is about it. Another rumour about this is a 6th edition, not called 6th edition, is that more class options from Splat books. So there's one called Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which is where, you know, remember when we played D&D and one of the players who used the samurai class, for example.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was in that book.
That's pretty cool. But
Well, another rumour is that things like that are going to now be sort of standard. So a lot more class options are going to be within the player's handbook. So negating the need for like 3-4 books.
I mean, that is cool, but it's kind of, I feel like all these changes are definitely unneeded because all of that is available right now.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I also think that what they're going to do is sort of try to neaten it up and iron out the things that are perceived as being controversial. So it's roughly going to stay the same rules-wise, but it's
Yeah.
going to be like, well...
I don't like how, we get it, and probably everyone listening gets it, but I don't personally like how they're sort of pandering to the movement.
Well, you see in the new editions as well, they've been doing it more and more over the years, and I think that actually it's really only served to make the game more bland. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not as if it's like necessarily a huge change, that because, you know, we played games where you can play orcs, and that's something a lot of people sort of push back against, because orcs are like the representation of evil, basically.
Because I like sort of the message that can be portrayed within games where there is a divide. Like, if you've got the orcs that are attacking you, you're going to be scared of them, you're going to act in that way, but like, it can, for say like kids and that, it can teach them life lessons.
Yeah.
About like, all right,
About
so,
orcs coming, stealing our women.
So they know how to like get around the 7-foot gnomes and stuff.
But yeah, it's funny because like I agree. I think having that stuff in a game, it does allow you to actually put a message in there, because orcs, if you actually trace back the history, they're not a representation of foreigners. It's mainly of the concept of evil.
And think about the descriptions there now at the table. It'll be like, oh yeah, the orcs are mostly green. They look quite angry, possibly, maybe. They kind of, sort of, ish represent evil, but maybe not too as
They're
well.
ransacking your town, setting people on fire, raping the women, right? But one of them, he's got this faraway look in his eye, like he doesn't really want to be doing
He's
it.
got a bow tie on and and a little smile.
I shall rape thee, woman. But the I agree. I think like dumbing it down in this way, it means that eventually everything's going to have no nuance and everyone's treated the same way. I mean, somebody once said, and I think this is a bit of an overstatement, but somebody once said about our actual plays that during the DCC one, a lot of times you would be faced with an enemy like that, who's clearly supposed to be evil, who's an arsehole, but you guys, because knowing you couldn't fight them, would sit and talk to them. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, maybe things like that, maybe if they're attacking your village, that's maybe a chance to find out why. And if you're playing with kids, maybe it's a point where you can go, look, maybe not every story is as simple as it seems. Maybe they're doing it because they're desperate, etc., etc. But there we go. But now it's just going to be this huge melting pot. I mean, I played a game once at our local store where every single race was a playable race, and it got to the point where it was just like everyone we meet, there's no delineation now. Nothing's a monster because everything's a playable race. So it's like we see a bunch of goblins, right? It's clear in any game that they're evil. They like raping, they like killing, they like shooting. But it's like now we go up to them and they're like, and the DM's like, whoa, hang on. These people have a family, and I'm like, for fuck, can we just kill some baddies, please?
Yeah, that's part of the aim of the game.
That's what D&D's about, you know. It's about killing,
maiming, killing,
raping, shooting. All right, well, that is it for news. 6th edition coming in 2 years.
Wait, 3
years.
Fucking 3 years for that.
There was some more news as well, actually, that a Cowboy Bebop official role-playing game is coming out, but honestly, it's basically a non-news. It's been announced that a company called Don't Panic Games, I think they're called, is taking it.
There is already a version of it that exists, but not by the company, because there's fan-made RPGs.
Yes, yeah.
That's existed for years now.
But for copyright reasons, it's called B-Boy Cowbop. Yeah. Well, the thing about it is that it's just, to me, it's a bit non. The company making it are responsible for the Naruto board game, so I don't even know if they have any.
Sean will get it.
Yeah, Sean's got 2 copies of the Naruto board game. But yeah, so more news when we hear more about that. But that's it for news this time. Should we go on to what the fuck we've been doing?
I think so, actually.
And it's one of these.
Oi, yeah.
What you slaying?
So Cyberpunk Red, we've been playing the jizz out of that.
Oh man, it's so good.
I'm enjoying the hell out of it. So the this is the latest version of the Cyberpunk role playing game, and we are playing a story where the characters in it own a pirate radio station called /FM 420.69, or the other way around, I can't remember. But essentially, the storyline is that they've come across a briefcase full of some sensitive documents, and they realise that they can make millions if they sell it on the black market. So we've had a session where the guys had to build up their rep so that a fence would want to work with them and therefore sell these sensitive documents. And they did it by putting on a gig and then had to go and meet them at a motel somewhere outside of town. Well, funnily enough, one of the characters who's a med tech, who's a failed doctor who got addicted to blue glass, he went to go and scope out the location before the meeting and saw an Arasaka guy and a mech. So this is one of the big corporations that's also after these documents. They were getting ready to do an ambush. So these guys basically preempted the ambush, fought in the parking lot, and it was a pretty deadly fight.
It was pretty mad, but also there was like a couple sort of storylines intertwining together, because I'm an exec and I've been put in charge of my boss's son, and I had to sort of cart him around and make sure that he enjoyed himself at a place called ElfCon, because he's a nerd. And
yeah, because essentially he was coming to visit his mum, which is the CEO of James's company, the Holloway firm, and she was just like, he's such a fucking needy kid. Can you just keep him out of my hair? He wants to go to this fucking con with a bunch of cunts.
Yeah, and I'm already in her debt, so I really needed to do it because I had to be a suck up.
But the first day of the con was starting around the time they had the meeting, so James, and also a kidnapping attempt occurred with the son. They were trying to kidnap him and ransom him. So James was in an AV, which is a flying car, trying to fight off a bunch of road gangers that were trying to kidnap the son.
Yeah, I pretended to him that it was a LARP, and I put this show on for him, so that I'd get like some points like with him, and he actually believed it and enjoyed it.
Yeah. So eventually, you fought off the road gangers, then tried to drive the AV to the motel so you could help out the rest. So these two storylines converged at once, and the two people they were there to meet. So it was a fixer by the name of Gandalf the White and a fence called Black Rose. So this was kind of like a three-way fight where we had the road gangers, the contacts, the Arasaka guys, all in this parking lot fighting each other.
Yeah, it was pretty mad.
It got pretty stupid as well, because essentially one of the homeless guy that was scoping out the motel beforehand, his tactic was to sneak up behind the mech, then jump in aside the guy who was piloting it.
Yeah, he jumped into the mech.
And they were having a firefight, like literally, you could call it less than point blank, because they were like in the same seat, sort of wrestling each other and trying to shoot each other. And it was insane. And the guy put a gun to the character's name was Driegel, and this Arasaka guy put a handgun to his face, shot his jaw off, and it was just hanging loose, which he duct taped together as a quick fix. And then once this fight was over, Driegel tried to pilot the mech and was trying to help Black Rose out, who was in the middle of a firefight. Accidentally yeeted her across the car park, and she hit into some bins, breaking her ribs. So it was pretty mental, but eventually they did fight off the Arasaka guys, and they pissed off the contact. Now, here's the thing. The briefcase full of documents, they buried it somewhere outside of town in the desert, right?
Yeah.
And they put a tracking device in it, so that once they were within a mile, they would know that they were in the right location. And the big sort of fuck-up occurred, really, because the team had failed to actually check the briefcase for trackers in the first place, and of course Biotechnica, the company that they belonged to, just came along and took it while they were gone. So they put all this effort to find this fence, and they get out into the desert, and the session ends with a huge argument, and she's like, "You guys are so fucking unprofessional."
I'll tell you what, all of our hearts sank at the table. We were like, for fuck's sake.
And she's talking to Gandalf, the guy that set up the meeting, and she's just like, "Are you fucking serious? These guys are fucking amateurs. Don't ever speak to me again." Sort of walks off in a huff.
Yeah, so we basically had to plead to try and get her back on our side and be like, "Look, we'll find it." And she said, "Yeah, you fucking better, because now we owe her a cut of it."
It's probably going to be a higher cut too.
Yeah, and so then a chase scene ensued in the next session, with the one that we played.
Yeah, because what the guys did, they wanted to relocate the goods, right? And they knew that it had a tracker on it. So they spent the night flying around in the AV that James, your character, borrowed from your company. They were flying around trying to see if they could pick up the signal. Now, what was interesting is that in the previous fight, the car had gone down to 4 structural damage points. So it was fucked. Yeah. It was like smoking. It was barely even alive.
It was only just working.
And they're just driving it around. And suddenly they see out of the Biotechnica building a armoured truck leaps out, and suddenly the tracker goes mental, and it's driving.
It was absolutely bombing it through the town,
going on the interstate. And so chase scene ensues, and eventually they do enough damage to the armoured truck that they get it to stop. They land the AV. They all get out on this raised highway, and everyone's being really cautious. One guy gets up to the side of the van, just sort of sneaks round to the front, and goes to peek into the window. Another guy opens the back door and sees the briefcase in there, snatches it up. Just as he does so, he hears this like it's attached to like a wire or something.
Yep.
Followed by a ticking. Then the guy who's going around the side looks in through the window, sees that nobody's driving the car. It was an AI-powered car.
Yep.
And they realise that they've just set a bomb off, and that this was a trap to try and fuck them over. One character died. Most of the characters received injuries.
And we all got critical injuries.
Yeah, and it was pretty fucked. But it was funny because one of the players told me afterwards, he was like, I had such a massive feeling that it was a fake and it was a decoy. And he was like, but I just didn't say anything. I wish I'd have just listened to my fucking gut.
Because we try, some people are more fond of, more familiar with the setting and stuff, so we're trying not to have any sort of metagaming at the table. So everyone's holding their tongue and stuff and just enjoying the story, which is quite nice. But definitely I understand that kind of situation. We're just like, it's not meta. It's just like, maybe it's a trap, guys. We should probably think of a different way around it. And then, yeah, probably would have been good.
Even though you would necessarily kind of be trying to predict where I'm, what I've done, I think that's fine because you guys are edge runners. You're like crazy motherfuckers. So it's like you do these missions all the time. I think it's completely fair to use that knowledge. But it was also the rocker boy who picked up the briefcase, which is a class of musician in Cyberpunk, and he is the stupidest out of everyone. So it sort of made it was my brother playing as well, and he literally just, I said, you see the briefcase is pristine, it's on a plinth, it's almost lit up for you. I was trying to make it kind of obvious, and he just went, well, I'll pick up the briefcase, and I'm like, all right, well, you said it now, so that's what's happening. And I was like, right, everyone, see if you could dive out of the way as this fucking thing explodes. It was funny because Sean didn't realise what had happened as well, and I said, you pick it up, and it's like, and you realise it's attached to a wire.
And he's like, yeah, I'll try and open it. And
everyone at the table just sort of, their faces dropped. But Sean was just like, looked really pleased with himself. Oh, man. Oh. But yeah, long story short is that eventually, this is kind of, I can't remember how you guys found out the information, but you found out that Biotechnica had done the decoy.
We hacked the AI of the truck and then managed to see some information in the background to give us some clues.
That was right, yeah. So you took out the CPU, hacked it and saw some information, figured out that the Biotechnica Corporation, that was the decoy, they were moving the real package and it was being heavily guarded and they were moving it on a...
train.
Yeah, a train that I can't remember what you would call it, like it's not Atlantic, is it? Whatever, trans-ocean train that is going from Night City to Japan on this, railway that goes over the ocean. And it was going to be heavily guarded. So what the guys then did, and this is genius, is they all applied for jobs at the train company.
Yeah.
and were working at the train station that day, checking tickets, doing security checks, things like this. And, they decided to try and snatch up the documents. And one of them nicked the documents, ran outside, jumped into a taxi.
He fumbled quite badly as well. So I ended up jumping on who seemed to be the leader of the opposing group.
As soon as they realised that he'd taken the case and he was just running, because what they did, the guy had it obviously chained to his wrist. But Sean's character shot the briefcase off his wrist, nicked it, then legged it up the stairs. And as he was running, he's fumbling up the stairs and they saw him going. So James, your character, has a brilliant last-ditch attempt. Yeah. Saw the leader was like, get that fucking guy. And you just rugby tackled him to the floor as a distraction. And I think this was completely fair, the other three guards, one of which was a huge fucking cyborg guy, all turned their guns on you because you pinned the boss and they killed your character.
Yeah, I was well dead.
It chewed you the fuck up. So where we left the game, well, what was funny about it was that I thought it was kind of a cool place to end it. It was mid-combat, but it was a cool place to end it where Sledge the rocker boy had run out of the station with the fucking briefcase and jumped into the cab. But it was hot midway through a combat round. So you said to me, you were like, look, I want to do my turn. I'm all right. Okay, let's finish the combat round and we'll end it there. So you rugby tackled him, got killed, and I was like, okay, right, let's end the game there. One of the other players was like, I bet you didn't wish you didn't ask that now.
Yeah. I was like, no, mate, it had to happen.
It was fucking sad though.
2 deaths.
I really liked your character, but we had 2 deaths in one session. So finally the game got to the point where it shows how brutal it is. It can really turn on a dime in that game if you're in a bad position strategically. That's why I said at the beginning, always use cover, but it's the biggest thing in this fucking game that can protect you.
And also it's like planning is everything as well. But see, we were up against it because I owed like a 25k or more, but now I suppose my debt's gone because I'm dead.
Yeah, he owned 25k to his company and they needed to pay it back within 2 days. So time, like I even said at one point, you guys should stop and heal up. But you were like, no, we can't.
Yeah,
the longer, if we heal, because you have to actually spend 24 hours resting, the longer we spend healing, the longer we have to, they're getting away with the fucking goods, right?
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. I mean, it's pretty nuts because it's got quite big after only 5 episodes.
Oh yeah, it's a big deal now. I mean, it's fucking awesome. Man.
So I don't know where it's going to go next game, but they're currently one of them's in the cab with the goods. The other the other single remaining character was trying to scramble up the stairs but failed, so he's still in the train station. So we're gonna have to start mid-combat next game, but it was fucking fun. And that's where we're at with Cyberpunk Red. Enjoying the balls off of it. It's a lot of fun. I think it kind of gutted that the two characters died because I think they were very good, and you were playing an exec very well.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
But you're going to take up an exec for your next character and be your old character's boss.
Yep.
Because the son that he was looking after got damaged, but clearly because he was hanging out with the player character.
Oh, we embedded a brain dance into his head just so it would allow him to believe that we saved him from something that happened, where in actual fact we put him in a position.
Danger, yeah.
So
they hacked his neural ware and implanted a memory in it, and he's like, Mother, these people saved me. It was raw.
So it was like one sort of smart thing that we did beforehand.
The one smart thing, yeah. And I'm enjoying the hell out of it, and so hopefully next game. So the funny thing is that the guy that died, he's going to play the cab driver that Sledge just got into his taxi.
Yeah, so Ryan's character died. It was Dr. Dreagle.
Yeah. So he's died, and so this cab driver is now going to be sort of caught up in the whole thing.
Yeah, because we've kind of like bossed him around, and he's like a returning. We're his returning client, so he knows us.
Yeah, and he is going to be a nomad. So nomads are like tribes of Mad Max type people that live outside of cities. And the story behind this particular taxi driver is that in the distant future, there's a war between nomad taxi drivers and the Uber Corporation.
Yeah.
So that's how he's going to fit in. And it's basically these edge runners have just got into his car. They've got something, their previous clients, so they can trust this guy, and now he's going to be their driver. So, a bit mental, but I think it's actually a really cool way for a character to be introduced into the plot. So
it's pretty awesome, and I get to revive an old character of mine by playing my boss.
Yeah, which is pretty great. So that's it for Cyberpunk Red. However, I've been on a bit of buying spree recently.
Oh dear.
And I've picked up a couple of things from DriveThruRPG that I just wanted to mention because I've had a little bit of a want to run some sort of historical type game recently. So I picked up a couple of RPGs. First of all, Wolves of God.
Nice.
Now, I want to do a review on this because it's set in something like 50. What is it? AD 50. Yeah, that's it. Right, 500 AD. So it's a very early historical game set in England. Now, the front of the book claims that the book is a translation of a RPG played by monks at the time.
Is that the one with the blurry image?
No. We'll get to that. But I don't know if that's true, and it probably isn't, and it's probably just flavour text. But it looks like a very good game.
It'll be a good one to review in that case.
Yeah, exactly, because I wanted to do an episode on it called "The RPG That Predates the RPG That Predates D&D."
Yes,
but that's only if it's true. But yeah, it looks like a decent game. It's an OSR type-ish one, and it's got great art, great presentation. Well worth a look in because it's got quite a lot of interesting information in it too. But the one crime it commits is there's no fucking character sheet in it.
What?
So it says to record your character's stats, but you're just going to write it on lined paper, I guess.
Oh man,
I know it's very shallow, but I've got to be honest. As soon as I read that, I was sort of like, I don't know if I want to play that now. So maybe I shouldn't have bought 3 copies of it.
You fucking.
Look, there it is.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. I mean, it looks pretty.
Yeah. Well, I thought because I'll get one table coffee, then another one. But in addition to that, I bought Pendragon 5th edition. So Pendragon is, as many people may know, Arthur's surname, King Arthur. So it's not necessarily historical, but then the King Arthur myth is kind of historical fiction. What's kind of cool about this game is it's very much a simulation-y game of what it's like to live at those times, and that's kind of the essence of it. And it's kind of cool because what it does is there's a supplement for it which is called the Great Pendragon Campaign. And this was kind of the main reason I bought it, because it's a campaign book, but it doesn't say, here's episode 1, here's what happens. All it does is give a week-by-week breakdown of like a 100-year period of what happens. So when we start in the next session, there's certain rumours that have happened, the war has gone in a certain direction, certain people have died, but it doesn't give you necessarily a mission. It just says, here's what's happened, and that may affect the things that your party are doing, kind of thing.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because as somebody that, I think the big risk you run when running long campaign books is that stuff will massively change and it'll fuck up further episodes of it. So I actually think this is a really clever way of doing it. But yeah, that is pretty much it for what I bought recently, and it looks like a great game, all things considered. It's also quite an old game, and it's barely been updated. The 5th edition is just like clarification and things like this, so I'm sure it's probably quite good. But the funny thing is that we got a contender for worst artwork going on here. I'm going to go and get the book because I think it's important. So there's a lot of supplements for Pendragon, and they're just called like the Book of Uther, for example, which was King Arthur's dad, I think, or the Book of Squires. And I've got this one here, the Book of Armies. Now, I've got right. The artwork on the cover is sort of very, very early Saxon art, like real art, right?
Yeah, but it looks like it's drawn like by a sub 10-year-old.
It's really wonky, right? And I know it was like over 1,000 years ago, but you know, Saxons make an effort. But I think this is great because this is the one time, this is going to be nominated for worst artwork, definitely. And this is the one time where a piece of ancient historical art could possibly win a prize for being shit. So that's good. Yeah, but listeners, go on DTRPG and look up Book of Armies and look at the cover because it is laughably bad. And obviously the image is quite low quality as well. So it's
yeah,
like
it's a low
really
quality
blurry.
image, and it looks like
It's a low quality image, badly painted.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, that is it for what we've been slaying.
What the fuck we've been doing?
Exactly. Cyberpunk Red, Pendragon, Wolves of God, check them all out.
Gnomes.
7-foot gnomes. No money, no problem. No.
Oh, get out.
Yeah, well. Right.
Main. Subject. Magic. Main. Subject. Tokyo. Main. Subject.
Chatty.
Let's be honest, you chatty motherfuckers. This is like everyone wants to play with like full terrain, full miniatures.
Yeah.
But it's often like it's not practical most of the time. This is why you'll notice that a lot of people that focus on crafting a lot for games tend to be the people that play, you know, once every couple of months and things like this.
And also they tend to be ones that perhaps bring our GMs and bring a one shot to conventions for that sole purpose.
For example, Eric Lamoureux, creator of Wise Guys, very good crafter, and yeah, he works all year round for his convention games to build this shit. And let's be honest, that's the ideal, right? People that say we're going to be talking about maps and minis today, basically, and this isn't going to be the old debate of terrain versus theatre of the mind, because we all know which is better. The theatre of the mind guys. You're kidding yourselves. Players love minis, players love maps, they love terrain. And today we're going to kind of talk about, you know, the best, easiest ways to do it, cheap ways to do it, and the most ideal ways to have maps and minis at the table for the sake of ease. Does that sound good, James?
It does.
So, the traditional way, I would say, we're going to talk about first, is buying minis, painting them, and then maybe buying the, you know, flat maps that you can get.
Buying the flat maps or getting some gridded paper and drawing out
drawing out maps. That's probably the most common way that maps and minis occur at the table. And the reason you want them at the table, I would say, is for tactical reasons. You don't need to describe where everyone's going. Also, it looks cool. It keeps people's attention. And buying minis, painting them, and buying these maps can be a good way of doing things.
Yeah, it can also help with the player investment. Like they'll be a bit more attached to their character and therefore play better with them. They'll get a bit more of a background involved because they've, you know, spent time painting it. So there's more dedication to their character and stuff.
Yeah, if you've sat down painting your mini for 3 hours, because you know we're kind of shit painters. The few times
it takes us fucking ages.
Yeah, it does take forever. But it's like the only trouble with this is it's expensive, right?
And also like there's time, and obviously all separate households and different separate lives, so it's difficult for us. We've done it a few times, got together and done a painting sesh, but we haven't in years now.
No, you're right. And the thing is, even when I was right into my painting and stuff like this, it just took so long, like, especially if I was... I mean, the idea really is you build up a collection and then eventually you get to a point where you don't need to really paint so often. But during the D&D campaign, I was fucking painting and crafting so often, I barely did anything else.
I know, you come like to the table and then you'd have like paint marks and cuts on your fingers and shit.
Yeah, classic. But think about this, this method obviously is probably the most common way of doing it, terrain being something that's really a luxury. But the trouble is, as I said, it's expensive, right? If you want to buy, say, for example, a pack of miniatures, you usually get like... I mean, put it this way, in the D&D campaign I needed, what are those frog things called?
Oh.
Frog things... Kuatawas, I think they're called. I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, I needed frog guy miniatures, and you can only buy them in packs of 3 for about a tenner, right? What if you want an encounter that's got 6? Well, that's 20 quid right there, right? And let alone player character minis as well, £5 each for 1. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if you want some good casting and stuff, you want to go for a bit more expensive ones.
Reaper Bones, the plastic ones are decent. The metal ones as well cost even more, and I think that's my main gripe with that type of minis. They're just too expensive, and often I try and find trick ways of sort of buying loads at once. Buying the D&D board games is a good idea.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much how I amassed most of my miniature collection, and then eventually got rid of them because I had a baby, and now I don't have any room in my house. But that's my main problem, and also the maps as well. Right, buying those big, lovely maps. They're about a tenner for a double-sided one, right? They're nice, but are you really going to use them more than once with the same group? At least not for like years apart, right?
Yeah, and they're quite encumbersome, like, because some of them's like the I can't remember. My brain's gone dumb. What? Pathfinder, who made that again? Paizo, sorry, thank you. For the Paizo maps, they're really, really awesome and well good, but they're folding ones. So if you don't use them that often, when you've laid them out on a table, you always have to like put bricks down on each corner to make sure it stays flat.
I've got to be honest, like, as nice as they are, right, it's because of that laminate that's on them. And like you said, they stick up. So minis fall down, they're sticking up, and people have to put shit on the map. It's like, oh yeah, I moved towards the giant beer can.
Yeah, I moved towards the spillage.
Yeah, and like I said, you don't get as much use out of them as you should. I mean, probably the ones I get the most use out of are my ETU maps, because they're just sort of a modern city and things like this, and I get a lot of use out of those. But yeah, I think basically what I'm trying to say is this traditional way of like painting minis, buying those types of map, making terrain. It's good, and it's ideal, and it's what we all want to do. However, it's very costly, and I don't think really worth the money, really, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, if you're playing frequently...
if you're just a fantasy guy, maybe it's worth doing.
Yeah.
But that's another problem I have with it, is that, like... Okay, so let's talk... The main represented genres in minis that you can buy, pre-made ones... Fantasy, sci-fi, sometimes Western, sometimes modern, right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. What if you're playing... Call of Cthulhu, for example. You can get some decent investigator minis out there, but the selection is pretty crap. If you're playing fucking, I don't know, post-apocalyptic, again, it's like something that's not quite as well represented as fantasy ones.
They mostly just look like army dudes, really, as well.
Yeah, exactly. And and as a result, like, I think that this is something I've moved on from a little bit. I mean, it's also due to space. That's another fucking point. Is that, do you remember the amount of? I had 3 bags to the D&D.
There was actually a little time where Harrison had so much stuff he'd travel a suitcase to mine. But that was to store everything. It was literally everything. But the suitcase was purposefully packed for each session.
Yeah, that's the thing. It wasn't even all my fucking minis.
No, he didn't just bring the suitcase for whatever. He had to bring the suitcase because of that was when you were in a terrain phase, and then you've got lots of like miniatures and painted up quite a lot and made a lot of like small terrain sections.
Yeah. And
But,
it was ridiculous. If you play once a week, it's just not fucking worth it. Like, honestly. And my new policy is if I can't fit it in one bag, it's not coming. End of fucking story. It's not as good. Like, playing with that terrain and stuff was fucking great.
It's amazing. Like, the only way that it could be sustainable would be to if you were always the host.
Yeah.
Because then you'd just be like, all right, well, there's a shelf, now I've got access to everything.
Yeah. And especially if you've got a dedicated gaming room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, where it's easily accessible.
Yeah, because otherwise, it's just the packing away and stuff. Because I remember before Jesse was around, and you had your spare room, which was like the computer den and all that stuff, and the drawers were just packed, and it'd be like, oh yeah, just need to get this out, and then it'd be like, open that drawer, open that compartment, open that, and open that, and it'd be like, all right, there it is. You knew where everything was, but it took time because it needed to be packed away.
I had insane amounts of stuff. It's annoying. And also, like, the thing is, if you have particularly big miniatures as well, like, because some of the stuff I had big fucking demons, I had the froghemoth, dragons.
They're amazing.
It's like, I can fit most of my minis in one box, but then these huge ones just need to be out. And let's be honest, it's embarrassing when my wife's friends come around and they see a froghemoth sitting on the shelf. It's like, yeah, I don't know. And so it's something I've moved on from a little bit. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about alternatives and cheap, better ways of doing it.
Oh,
and
boy.
You can there are ways to get the impact of having miniatures and terrain without having to use all that space and spend all that fucking money. Now, the first one we're going to talk about is paper miniatures.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds lame, but it can be cool. So,
right, firstly, it could be cool. But secondly, it could be fucking cost effective. And thirdly, it's like fucking... This storage is mental.
Because the good thing about that is, even if the mini is huge, like for example, with paper minis, right? You have some smaller ones and like player character ones. But if I have a huge one, it can fit in the same fucking box because they're all flat, right?
Yep.
Now, the best ways to do paper minis, though, don't just print them on paper and then put them on the table. I've done this before. You can glue a penny to them, right? If you have the trifold ones that sort of stand up like a triangle. But yeah, when people laugh or put down their drinks, they blow all over the place. So you glue a penny to the bottom. But that's a bit of a pikey way to do it, and it's also going to result in...
Well, I mean, they'll just tear, because it's one bit of paper. It's like you glue a penny onto it, and then you just pick it up, and it's like, oh, I've torn them off.
So Ace B asked me on the Discord about ICRPG because he said was there some sort of promotional pack because I use the ICRPG paper minis, and the great thing about this is if you buy it from DriveThruRPG, you get all of those for free, hundreds and hundreds of paper minis. And what I did is I just got it on the thickest cardstock I could buy at a printing company, got them printed up for about £10 and then sent to me. Now, it does mean you're going to have to stick and glue all of these fucking things together.
Yeah, but when you're done...
Yeah, you've just got it there forever, and it's double-sided, and cutting it out and gluing it together is a lot quicker than painting them. Yeah. And the cool thing is that the artwork on them is really nice, so you still get that impact. Like the ICRPG art style is very unique, but you still get that impact of, oh, look at that cool artwork. You stick it down on the table.
You still get to have the fun choice, you should be like, all right, choose your character, and then you just fling out a load of flats on the table, and then you just put it in a holder.
Well, that was it, because we started off using a couple of the sci-fi minis for the Cyberpunk campaign as the player character minis, and I was just going through looking for ones that could possibly fit in a Cyberpunk game, and there was about 30. So for if I just bought those, the price of those probably cost me about 50p to £1. I've got loads of them. They're sturdy as fuck cardboard. The only thing is obviously you need to buy bases, but I just picked up a box of 50 bases from Amazon for £5. So
exactly. So there's alternative cheap ways about doing things, but still give impact, and also it means you're not that precious about them. So you can sit there, some of the card ones that you've printed out, because they're cheap to reproduce, you could just be like, right, well, yeah, he's dead, draw a red X on him or something like that. If you think that, if you really want the player investment, depending on who you're playing with and stuff, you can just do that. Just be like,
yeah, you can set them on fire if you want.
That'd be sick.
That would be sick. But yeah, I mean, so that's probably, as for paper miniatures, my first bit of advice: just buy RCRPG on DriveThru, and then get those miniatures.
All right, you got that.
Sorry, that was my my Uncle Bill just came. Oh no, I do have an Uncle Bill. I forgot. Yeah, so buy ICRPG because it is good, and you get loads of paper minis. And let's be honest, you do play fantasy games, don't you? So yeah,
come on, mate, you listen to this. Of course
come on, mate. So just get them. Another one I wanted to shout out was Oakham Arts. So this guy does paper minis, and they're actually really nice. They have thick black borders. So if you have a paper cutting machine as well, it will cut out the borders of it, and you won't have like a white background on your little cardstock minis like you would on the ICRPG ones. The artwork, I'm going to say it ranges from mid to low quality, but he has got loads of them, and weird ones too, because he's got a modern sci-fi fantasy. He also made a game called Grammar World that we sadly played a terrible session of at convention once. So you can buy some granny miniatures from him if you want. And the good thing is that while the art quality is semi-low, they are full colour and cheap as fuck. So yeah, Oakham Arts. And yeah, paper minis, the flaw of them, I feel, is that you do need to get them printed up on decent cardstock, and you are going to use a lot of ink. But I think pros, it's cheaper, they look cool, players like them, it'll give you more choice because you can get hundreds for cheap, and there are fuckloads of them out there. They're becoming way more popular. So
yeah, and the only other flaw to them is obviously because they're paper, they can soak up moisture. So just make sure your idiot spillers don't spill anything.
Get them those cups,
sippy cups.
Sippy cups. Yeah. That is something that genuinely worries me, because I bought a set of Rory's Story cubes. I've got some fantasy ones, and I was playing with those with my niece recently, and she was loving it. And I'm thinking she wanted me to babysit her soon, and so her mum can have a break as well, which would be nice. But I was thinking I might run a little session of D&D. I'm thinking, with this clumsy 6-year-old there, if she spills, imagine if it went into the actual box.
Oh no!
And I'll be like that. I'd be like, oh cool, all that time I spent sticking and gluing. Cool, thanks. But yeah, that's really the hardest thing about them. But then what you could do is get them printed on laminate,
Yeah.
And that would be easier. So, but yeah, that is it. Paper miniatures, definitely go for those. Those are one of our number one recommendations. James, as a player, do you have a preference? Do you have a preference between paper miniatures or traditional ones?
To be honest, I don't really have a preference. I do like the traditional ones, the look and feel, and if you painted them yourself, or they're pre-painted, or if you've selected them purposefully for the character that you're portraying, then you really do enjoy it. And I mean, at the table, we're always sitting there going, oh yeah, mate, it looks great. Yeah, I love the way the character looks. We're always commenting on whatever version of a miniature that we have, or token, or whatever it is. But I don't really have a preference, because at the end of the day, it's all about the game and story. So as long as you have something representative of you and your position, then that's fine. Because
if you look at the actual mechanical purpose of the minis is to show where people are, show who's behind cover, right? We want them to look cool, obviously, but it's as you say, it doesn't have to. You know. And paper minis are obviously very good. They don't look as cool as normal miniatures, but they do look very cool still.
I like the choice of paper minis. Like we said, you can get so many for so cheap that you just it's
just a no-brainer to me now.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like another very underrepresented genre in buying normal minis is gangster games.
Oh, that's true.
And specifically, even like you can buy some packs of gangsters, but there's not that many. Like, you could probably get like a pack of Italian ones or of a triad.
Yeah, they're all the standard stereotypes and tropes.
Yeah, but there's not that many, and you have to mix it up with maybe some modern ones or whatever. But here's the thing, like Tough Guys, for example, he's grossly underrepresented, mainly because nobody plays it, right? but the thing about it is that like, buying minis for that campaign would be really, really difficult. So what I did, and this again, it is a little bit, cheapo, but I was like, can I really be asked trying to source minis for this, or make my own paper minis, which is another way of doing it that's somewhat easy but can be time consuming. I just bought some blank dice off of Dice Shop online, marked them up with a Sharpie with people's initials on the main side. And then that's it. You've got a token there. That's you. And I marked up a bunch of other ones with like this is a boss, this is a goon, whatever. And the cool thing about that is you can remove the Sharpie using, what the fuck is it called? Acetone, right? So if you ever change players. But James had the genius idea as well, especially with Savage Worlds, right? Because the way the HP works is wound system. You go 3 wounds and incapacitated. And then you also have the shaken status. So you marked up all the different sides of the dice. So we could move it and be like...
Because they're all different colours, so we got used to the colour representing the player. And then it just meant that if you're wounded, you just turn it round. And then you don't really need to keep track because it's staring at you in the face.
It's pretty fucking genius.
I was just like, yeah, that's right.
And, you know, that works. It's a very inelegant way of doing it. It doesn't look amazing, but it's a fine way of doing it.
It made it a lot quicker because, you know, sometimes when we're caught up in the moment, I say particularly our Ryan, he'll sit there and be like, oh, wait a minute, I've forgotten where my box is to mark my wounds. Oh, wait a minute, I need to rub it off.
Yeah, and also
turn it over and just be like, click. Done.
Because I had a bunch of generic enemy tokens, I'd just chuck them out and then just be like, right, these ones over here, these are the guys with shotguns, these are the guys with pistols, that's the boss. Bam, let's get on with it. No searching for the specific one. Do you know what I mean? And also, you guys always had your tokens in front of you. But again, it's inelegant. Doesn't look.
What's up? What's up, sponsors? Yo.
No. I'm not talking. We're trying to get sponsors. We have a sponsor for this episode.
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah. They're really cool guys.
Yeah. So Pornhub, great website, and they sponsored this episode. No. Sorry, that's my other podcast. It's not necessarily a sponsorship, but a company has sent us some miniatures, and I will be completely honest about them and say what I feel, because they've sent us the minis for review, right? And that is Arknight Miniatures. So in our Cyberpunk campaign, we've been using Arknight Miniatures, and I did buy them myself before they were kind enough to send us some. And I absolutely love them. So what these are is like thin plastic minis that come with bases, and the art is always double-sided. So it has a back and a front.
Yeah, front and back of the...
Which is really handy. It's quite high-quality, sort of comic-y artwork, full colour, comes with bases, and obviously the plastic is clear as well, so it's got clear outlines of the characters.
It's decent.
They look beautiful.
So they sit there, and then whatever shape or size they are, you know, there's no border or any sort of backdrop. It's all clear, so they're just like a character sitting on the table. It's nice.
So again, these are a bit more expensive than paper minis, but what I got it's called a Cyberpunks pack, and it came with 62 miniatures. And
62,
and it was $30, right? Which meant postage was a little bit much, but not actually that bad at all, because if I buy a miniature from fucking America, postage is ridiculous.
It's like 30 quid.
But these are flat, so it just came in a letter.
Yep.
And I was like, it was like £2 for postage, that's the biggest fucking bonus ever. $30 for 62 minis is ridiculous.
And the thing is, like, the fact that they are printed on, you know, plastic
means that when I'm playing Cyberpunk Red with my niece, she spills that drink. That's fine. Don't worry about it. And the cool thing is that the packs that you get, they come with a really sort of like wide range of different shit.
They're awesome.
It's clear that the Cyberpunk ones are mainly meant for Shadowrun because it's got trolls in there and things like this and dwarves. But the cool thing is it comes with some vehicles as well. They've got terrain packs, which are mostly fantasy at this point, but they've got vehicles. They've got flying bases for certain. For example, there's an AV in the Cyberpunks pack. They're really, really, really nice minis. I absolutely love them. My only gripe, I would say, is that I've got one pack and I've got 62 minis. It's missing one type of mini that I really need for Cyberpunk, which is just some modern day civilians.
Ah, yeah.
But they do sell a pack of modern day civilians. But when I bought this first one, I didn't have enough money to buy both of them. So, still, great miniatures, great company, and they have sent us a pack, which unfortunately didn't arrive in time for this episode. But yeah, they're a great company, and their website is like arknight.squarespace.com.
Oh,
so they're kind of a small operation as well.
That's really cool, man.
Really quick sending, and also, the minis are just great. I think it's that perfect balance between the paper mini and the normal minis.
Yeah, because of the fact that it's, the paper ones are terrible and tearable, and like they're kind of, their shelf life ain't that long. These shelf life on the Arknight minis are a lot longer.
It's ridiculous. Thing is that because they're on like really thin plastic as well, like the amount you can, I've got those, those things called really useful boxes.
Yeah,
I've got the smallest size, and I can fit 50, 60 miniatures in one of those tiny boxes. And for me, that is like, that's the selling point right there. The criticism I do have with it a little bit is that, so the way they come delivered is in a sheet, and you have to pop them out. And the sheet is made of the same material, obviously, and it's quite easy to tear them. So you do have to be very, very careful when you're getting them out.
When you're popping them.
Now, there are other companies that are doing the same thing. There's a company called Skinny Minis, who... It's essentially the exact same product, but they only do fantasy, which is kind of annoying. Whereas Arknight do all kinds of different ones, which they do. They've got civilian, sci-fi, modern, cyberpunk, all of this stuff. So they're probably the better company to go for. But the Skinny Minis ones do have some of the more typical monsters from the Monster Manual in there. So maybe go for that one. It depends on what you need, really. But Arknight, fucking amazing. Thank you very much for the gift. And I promise you, I'm not, no bullshit. I do really like them.
야, 내 이름은 게리 가각스고 내가 러시안 애들 패고 있지 않을 땐 넌 테이블탑 투어스의 방송을 듣지.
I hate walking to yours because for some reason, now I'm a bit older, I get sweaty all the time.
Oh, mate, no, I know what you mean. It's just like, I used to do this walk like fucking 20 times a day.
I used to sprint to yours. And now it's like, I walk and if my backpack is like overloaded, or if I'm carrying an extra bag, it's like...
It's got a wet back.
I've got a wet back, wet crotch, and that's no way to start a game. But the good thing about Arknight miniatures, right, is that if you do have a wet crotch, and that happens to be where you store your miniatures...
Yeah, they'll be fine.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, you just get them out. It may smell a bit cheesy, but they can still be moved around the table.
No, I clean the penis. Well, I think yeah. So that's my recommendation for miniatures. I go with plastic or the paper ones if space saving and money is an issue, which it is for me because I live in a small house and I have no money. Also, time as well. I mean, a lot of people have jobs. Can we confirm that?
Confirmed.
A lot of people, yeah.
Confirmed.
If you don't play very often, then crafting is a really good way to sort of still be involved with the hobby.
And it's also very therapeutic if you manage to find the time to do it as well.
I love it. I love it. But it's just I don't have the time now, nor the inclination. And we play each week. So trying to get... I'll say it again. That 5th edition campaign, trying to get minis painted every week.
Fuck me.
It nearly killed me.
Yeah, it was amazing though.
Yeah, it was fun.
Properly enjoyed it, like everyone did. But
yeah, my recommendation goes to paper or Skinny / Arknight minis. But let's talk about maps. Because you know what I hate, right? Is when I've lovingly crafted and painted some minis, and glued them all together and all this shit, and then you put your maps down on the table. You got your shitty hand drawn ones.
Oh yeah, no, they've never been shitty.
Well, I put a lot of care and attention into them, but I can't actually draw, so that's the biggest sort of problem.
So there's more time because of the...
retardation.
Yeah, but there's more time going into drawing out your own maps and stuff.
Yeah. And that's kind of... And also, like, I don't know. Yeah, just it takes a lot of time, and I feel like it does the minis a disservice, because the fine guys at Reaper Minis... No, Arknight minis. They make good shit. And it's like, then you put it on this shit hand-drawn map that looks like it's drawn
been crinkled, been spilt on.
It's been spit up.
That's one thing as well.
There's some crusty stains on it. Don't know how they happened.
Yeah, but it was a good time. I do find that if you do your own maps, regardless of your capabilities or time that you've poured into drawing them out and making them look pretty or at least good enough for use, if you've drawn it out yourself, you will always be a bit anal about... putting them down on the table, because as soon as something's building it, he's like, fuck me, man, that took me...
Especially if I've drawn out a world map, which is, could be weeks of work,
Yeah, and it's like, that took me fucking
And then when my brother inevitably spills something on it...
Yeah, like chocolate stain, and it's like, for fuck's sake.
Oh, the chocolate stains. It's like, how old are you? When we host it here, right, at my house, when I move the table at the end, you're lucky because you've got a Roomba.
Yeah.
And not the dance, the cleaning robot.
Hey.
But it's just fucking it's crisp bits everywhere. It's always around my brother's fucking seat. My wife can actually tell where he's been sitting.
It's brilliant.
She'd be like, "Is that where Sean sat?" It's like fucking chocolate, fucking crumbs all over the place, tobacco, weed, not weed.
Yeah.
Not weed.
Not weed. Cactus.
But yeah, maps wise, I think we don't really need to spend much long on this because much long. That's your cousin, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we don't need to spend a long time on these. But basically, the thing I wanted to say was like, obviously, terrain is ideal but costly and not time effective. So I think just for the sake of a couple of quid, get them printed at either a mate's work or at a print shop nearby because they just look nice. And
find some online, like either subscribe to get someone on Patreon. There's so many out there that make sort of really nice.
Yeah, I mean that's what annoys me. Like nowadays, it's become the thing, isn't it? That people, I mean, this is terrible, but people have their Patreons where they make battle maps. If you just go on to Reddit, go to r/battlemaps. It's basically just a bunch of people shouting out their Patreons, and it's like really good. There's so many maps available. You just spend a quid, and then you get the access to their whole back catalogue. Zovia Maps is a good one for that.
Oh yeah,
she seems like a really decent person. Don't know why I said that, but yeah, her maps are very good. So yeah, there's shitloads out there, but it kind of annoys me because, back in the day when it was like the Wild West, and people would just, sharing people's maps when they really shouldn't be.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the good times, the good old days. And now it's like you go onto Google and you search for a specific battle map and it'll be like a low quality image with watermark of go to Big Dick 420 on Patreon and get this map. And I'm like, you fucking piece of shit.
You fucking big suck.
You're making me pay for your hard work. How dare you?
Yeah, but
please, just so you know, 3T RPG podcast on Patreon. Please don't pirate this free podcast. But no, seriously, you should pay for them, but I just don't want to.
Yeah, that's fair enough, to be honest.
What? No, there is a trend that I do hate, is people that have downloaded map making software with a bunch of pre-made stuff and then exported that and gone, can you pay me for this? That takes the piss. But the hand-drawn ones that are beautiful, like specifically Zovia, for example, she does videos on her YouTube, but like time-lapse of her drawing it, and it's like, fucking hell, this amount of effort for something somebody only needs to pay a quid to get like 50 of them.
Yep. I mean, that's worth your buck.
So it is worth it. And recently, when I couldn't find any free car tokens, I did go to 2 Minute Tabletop, which is another very good one. But just if you've got decent minis, invest in decent maps because you're doing them justice then, and it looks nice. It sets the atmosphere, and also you don't need to describe anything. It's just there on the fucking table.
Yeah, it just helps you and it helps positioning. It helps tactical opportunities, and the grid's there so you can actually move your players along. Or if it's zoomed out, you can just be like, look, this is just placement reasons.
Yeah, totally. But, during the Tough Guys campaign where I just had, tokens for characters, I did hand-drawn maps, but that's fine. You just want it for positioning. But I think the ideal is going to be printing them because if you buy a map from, say, Paizo, we've already spoke about why that's annoying, but also you don't get much use out of it. Whereas if you print a map, it costs a lot less. You can use it once and it's still pretty awesome. You won't be so precious over the encounter you've set up because it only costs you a little bit of money to get it printed, do you know what I mean? Or the ink that you bought. So yeah, that is it. So I think we're done. Maps and minis made easy. I think we've made it easy.
Yeah, so making it easy is get paper or plastic minis as long as they're skinny for transportation. Do that. And also get just pre-done maps. You've got the Big Book of Cyberpunk.
Oh, God, yeah. I do need to talk about those guys, because that was another previous fucking sponsor of this podcast. Loki Battle Maps. They're not sponsoring us anymore. So I can say right now that the people running that company...
backhand to the face. No, they're awesome.
No, they are. So I bought the Big Book of Cyberpunk Battle Maps, which is an A2 sized book of battle maps. They're a UK based company as well. So proudly British.
Yes.
Yeah, they essentially what these are dry and wet arrays maps.
It's
map
an
packs.
A3 book, but obviously folds out
It
into
folds
A2.
out flat, and you can use one side or both sides of all the pages as they fold out. Always fold out to make something bigger. For example, you've got one map that's a train station, and then the other one folds out to be the above ground level of the train station. Things like this. But they're also dry and wet arrays, and so the giant book, that's the one I got.
Yeah,
the giant book
the
of
giant.
Cyberpunk Battle Maps, which is huge. It's actually too big. It doesn't fit in my bag. But the yeah, so that cost me 30 quid, and it's got, if you took each half page as its own map, maybe 40 maps in it.
Yeah.
So it's basically,
for your buck, mate, it's really worth it. And they're so good.
yeah, they're really nice.
They're like really, really pretty.
And they sell these like stickers you can put on there that are re-stickable, so you can put scenery and shit on there.
I mean, that's smart. And it also it does the miniatures justice, like we've commented.
Yes.
And it's also one of those easy ones, especially, you know, with the dry and wet wipes. You can just like draw all over it. And
Be
mark
sure
location.
to erase it between games though, because I fucked up the nightclub map on there by leaving the
Or did you
pen on
leave it
there.
a bit too long?
Yep. About a week, yeah, it's permanent now. So there's some marks on there. But still, they're great products. And the cool thing is that they do small, medium, big, and giant. So
Oh, the small ones are cute, but
They
really
are.
awesome.
yeah, and they're all actually quite handy. You think the small ones are too small, but we've used them. And
We've used them quite a lot, actually.
cool thing is you can sort of merge two together if you've got more than one book.
Yeah,
so.
you can link them up because the small ones tend to be like portrayal of a road mostly.
Yeah, or like some grass.
Yeah, and it's just like you just need some scenery,
Yeah.
and that's it, and that helps
can
you
draw
do
on.
battles.
But yeah, I like them a lot, and it solves that problem of the high quality, piezo maps of folding them flat. It solves that problem. It also gives you way more. It's like perfect. So the Cyberpunk one, for example, yes, the maps are very distinct, and I don't know if I'd use many of them more than once, but it's got more than enough to sort of last you for a campaign.
Yeah,
Even if you only use each one once, but then certain other ones are going to come up again, like nightclubs, bars, diners, things like this, places that characters
they're
will visit often.
reusable.
Yeah, so it's Loki battle maps. Check them out; they're really fucking good. Just
yes.
bear in mind, just measure your bag. And I thought, because it said A3,
He thought
I
that
thought it
was
was
folded
A3
out.
when it was unfolded, but it wasn't, and it doesn't fit. It's too big. It's too big. But very cool. So yeah, check out Loki battle maps, and just buy some ones on Patreon if you can't pirate them. No, do pay people for their work. Do
Yeah, pay people for their work, but then get your mate to
and
print
by
them out work.
people, I mean us,
Yeah,
right?
pay us for your work.
That would be ideal. That would be ideal because currently I haven't had a job in a long time, right? So if you could pay me for your work, that would be ideal.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much. Oh yeah, by the way, did you receive your payment from Arc Knight Miniatures to give them a positive review?
No, mate, not yet.
All right, well, yeah, check your account because
Oh yeah, there it is. 3p.
I think it's because they thought we were the 3P RPG. No, that's stupid.
Oh,
Right.
2p copcast.
Should we play some Jim Bim Salabim?
Oh, come on, in Sorry, I mean yes.
Don't be racist, for Christ's sake.
Uh,
I already made that much long joke earlier. Right, so Jim Bim Salabim. Where does this stem from? It comes from the fact that at our table we have lots of weird phrases, like colloquialisms that we all say that don't make any sense to people
they're-
outside of the table.
inner circle jokes.
So, like Chottleton,
Yeah.
Chottleberg on Sea.
A little thumbs up, but you have to make the smallest thumb up possible.
Yeah, that's another one.
Is a really good thing at the table. We love that.
Upgroid.
Yeah.
Updo. All right. Anyway, the point is, this game is there are in Cyberpunk Red there are lots of street slang terms for things, right? And in this game, I'm gonna read some of them out, and you're gonna have to figure out which is the quote unquote real ones from the Cyberpunk Red book, and which ones have I made up.
All right.
Which is a Jim Bim Salabim, which was the name of a move that we had in one RPG, by the way. So the first one, crowdfunder, a derogatory name meaning a beggar.
I'm going to say that's made up. I don't think that's cyberpunky enough.
That's good. No, you've done it. That's one, right?
I mean, that's a Jim Bim Salabim.
That's a Jim Salabim. So yeah, that one I did make up. I was actually quite proud of that. I thought.
It's good. Good. I like it.
Next one, chipping in. to get cyberware installed for the first time.
That sounds good because chip. But I'm going to go for Jim Bim Salabim.
No, wrong. That is...
Oh, fuck.
It's even one of the songs that gets played at our table during fights.
Yeah, because obviously it always announces the name of the song that's playing.
Well, the chorus goes, I'm chipping in. But, and I posted it on our Facebook group, that specific song, and even included what it meant. So
what I actually said was...
No,
that's
shut
that's a
up.
cyberpunk.
Joy Toy, a prostitute who has multiple personalities installed in their brain so that they can meet the needs of any client.
Oh my god, please can that be in Cyberpunk?
So is that your guess?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. No, that is real. That's real. So
That's so good.
So if you, for example, if you went to a whorehouse.
A Jorge house.
No, that's no. Shut up! Stop trying to make me say racist things. Right. So yeah. If you go to basically the person will go, right, here's your client. What sort of personality do you want? And you'll go, can I have Marie Antoinette? And then they'll be that personality or whatever. It's pretty fucking cool. Kibble, a cheap type of food for humans that resembles cat food.
Oh, that's in Cyberpunk. It's got to be.
It is, and it's the lowest form of food you can sustain yourself on in the game. And if you eat only kibble for a long enough time, you start to get, your character starts to get like worse, like ill.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I'd like to point out for any listeners here, I have no prior knowledge of the Cyberpunk history other than the podcast that we did because I've not played the video games.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there's only one video game, but yeah, it's been out for a while. But yeah, you don't have any prior knowledge, and all of these are kind of weird. But yeah, you've got what 2 right so far?
I've got like all of them, mate. Yeah.
Oh right, good. Bungle Fungler, a person who makes stuff out of trash.
Oh mate, that's definitely a Jim Bim Salabim.
Yeah, he's a Rimbo, a gun-toting woman who exploits her sexuality.
A Rimbo, that's wicked. Yeah, it's Jim Bim Salabim.
No, that's a real one. So it means it's from Bimbo and Rambo.
Oh,
so it's a Rimbo, and it's basically
Rambo Bimbo.
The way it describes it in the book is a sex kitten. So it's like somebody that wears very little clothes and like has an Uzi.
Oh my god! Right, that's cool.
That is cool. Egg-laying woolly milk pig, a jack of all trades but master of none.
Mate, Jim Bim Salabim.
Technically, yes. It's not a cyberpunk word, but I can't remember. I don't know the actual. It's like Erlegender Vollmichsau. It's like a German word that means jack of all trades, basically. But it's not a cyberpunk one.
That's brilliant.
Chromatic rock, a type of heavy metal characterised by heavy electronics, simple rhythms, and violent lyrics.
Oh, mate, that's definitely in the cyber.
Yep, that Chippin' In is an example of a song in that genre, Samurai, a band of chromatic rock.
Nice.
Slap Goblin, a cyber psycho who has extremely strong cyber arms.
I'm sorry, I just imagine a goblin walking around just slapping
No, but
people.
goblins aren't in cyberpunk, so it'd be a big fucker with like big green arms.
Oh.
Slap Goblin. What are we saying?
Oh, I'm going to Jim Bim Salabim.
Yeah, I did make that one up.
I like it though.
And the last one,
bake it in.
Decycling, dumping a body in a discreet location.
Oh, please let that be in. That's wicked. That's such a good idea.
No, it isn't. But
is it Jim Bim?
Recycling is the process of taking a dead body to a ripper dock to harvest their cyberware and organs.
That's the new term for recycling.
So I just kind of I flipped it.
You flipped it.
I flipped it, mate. I ended it. So yeah, that's it for Jim Bim Salabim. I think you scored
a good. I scored a good, right?
We never keep track of the fucking scores.
Was it a good though? Was it an okay?
Yeah.
Was it a small thumbs up?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I'm doing that now. For listeners that can't see what I'm doing that.
Oh, yeah. he pointed it at the mic.
I actually did.
Shut up.
In the future, you will be able to send a letter or parcel from anywhere on the planet. This, sir, is the electro letter.
Let's do electro letters.
Sup.
So yeah, we basically
Yeah, we got like letters electronically.
yeah, cyberpunk, yo.
Yeah.
I should put that as one of the Jim Bim Salad Bims. Electro letter, an email. So yeah, we're basically only accepting question submissions on the Discord at this point, which we are going to link in the description, Blade.
Oh yeah, I should probably put some links out there on the wider.
Yeah, that would be
I'll
good.
do that.
First one comes in from Owen Lean. He says, "What are the current most prominent in-jokes at your gaming table?" I've just put in brackets underneath that Ryan's back. So one of our players, there was a very high-profile Premier League match happening that he wanted to watch, and he lied and told us that he had a bad back because he had set up the fact that he couldn't host the game a week prior. There was all sorts of suspicious activity going on, and the fact that his dad and his brother were watching the football downstairs.
Yeah, and also he messaged me the day before the game, being like, "Oh mate, can it be at yours?" And I was like, "You already ran this past me, mate."
Somehow he preempted the fact that he was going to have a bad back a week before, then a day before, and also there just happened to be a football game happening at the same time. We've spoken about this before, but so that's the current ongoing joke, because the next week when he turned up, we gave him a lot of shit for it, didn't we?
Yeah.
And it was funny because the first thing I said to him, I said, "You all right, mate? How's your back?" Like that, really simple. And he just went, "Oh no, no, my back actually was hurting, by the way." It's like,
The thing is,
you got defensive so quickly.
And I was trying to be like nice, but because I'm curious as to how he fixed it, because
It was a miraculous.
Yeah, because he seemed to be all sprightly and all that shit, and he said, "Oh yeah, I went out on the Saturday," and it's like, mate, that's 2 days later. You don't recover from a back injury that quickly.
Do you remember when I had a bad back at the game and I couldn't move my neck?
Yeah.
Right? He's out tap dancing the next night.
Yeah, I did my back in just doing absolutely nothing, but I had to I stood up the next day for 10 hours straight to let it settle, and that really helped, but it still weren't fixed.
Yeah, but somehow he's fine the next fucking day.
Yeah, he's fine, mate. He said, "Oh,
maybe it was the result in the football that helped."
Oh, yeah,
but it was funny. Yeah, we were taking the piss out of him loads, and we just wouldn't stop. And then it got to the point where James, you were like, "Oh yeah, I injured my back recently." And I was like, "Oh mate, you're right," like showing genuine concern. And then with Ryan, like we were really giving him a lot of shit. And Ryan was like, "Oh no, mate, honestly, mate, it was a horrible evening." And then Sean just, bam, like quick as lightning, he just went, "Why did your team lose?" It was so fucking funny, man. But that's probably the most prominent in-joke at the moment.
Yeah, that's the one
say.
that's like, it's just there, mate.
It's good. CJ the Big Boy, he says, "What RPG setting or book would you like to see get an update or expansion?" Old School Essentials would probably be mine. Because the thing is, right, recently they came out with 2 new books for the Old School Essentials, and I love the modular nature, like everything's its own little book. For those that don't know, it's basically a reprint and reorganisation of Basic Essentials D&D, and it's probably the best one out there. But it's kind of cool, because what they did is they released an advanced fantasy book. It doesn't update the rules to advanced D&D, but it puts all the character options from it into the game, which I just think is genius, because it still keeps it a decent game rather than being the rules bloat of AD&D. But yeah, they released 2 new things for it recently. A book of advanced treasures, so it's all the the well-known ones from AD&D, the deck of many things, the crab apparatus, all this shit, and some new monsters from AD&D. Now that was cool, but the people have noted for a long time that the monk class is missing from OSE. And they are saving it apparently for an Oriental Adventures one. So they'll have like samurai, monk, I don't know, some other type of Oriental thing. Ninja is another one. But yeah, so I want that, please, now.
I like to see them revamp Pathfinder and make it less mess.
That would be nice.
Because that was, we enjoyed that as one of our introductory games into the genre.
Yeah.
And we played it for a good long while, and we did enjoy the number crunching at that point. But I think if they stripped it down
and made a Pathfinder Basics or something, because here's the problem. Here's why the bloat and the maths in Pathfinder took us by surprise. It's because we started with the beginner box, and that gives you a watered down version of the rules, and actually a better version of the rules, and a better character sheet, honestly. But
the character sheet is really well laid out.
When you start to get into like the rules minutiae of Pathfinder, if you jump from the beginner box to the main game, because the beginner box takes you up to level 5, which is actually quite a long time. You jump to the main game, it's like it's actually kind of ridiculous how many like how many rules there are simply for the way in which you're surprised in a fight. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's things like that that just eventually made it unplayable and really prone to min-maxing
hacking as well. Yeah,
and like also like just getting bogged down. Like certain situations, I just want to go, here's a rule, fuck it, let's move on. But it's like when there's a rule for everything, all it does is slow the game down. And
because also,
but I do actually like the way the game plays.
Yeah, I like the way it plays, but it definitely forces rules lawyers into the players.
Yes, it does, and but it rewards that though. That's the thing. That's how it happens. See, because if you min-max and rules lawyer and shit like this, well, you're going to get ahead in that game. I mean, even in your game, for example, when we realised how unbelievably difficult it was to take down the main baddie, I multi-classed in such a way where, you know, it would... I realised I was wrong for doing this, but like I multi-classed in such a way where I picked pretty much the best option, you know what I mean? I really poured over the fucking rules for ages to try and come up with that. It was really fun to do, actually, to be perfectly honest, but the game is really prone to that. There are certain other games that aren't necessarily balanced, but sort of pull off a better sort of feel than where you can't min-max it. An OSE, for example. But a Pathfinder Light, I would really fucking love.
Yeah.
That would be good. Apparently the new one is somewhat good, but one of the cool things I liked about it is that the way magic items work. Terry was telling me about this, and it's like, so let's say, for example, you get a +1 sword that when you're at full HP, it can shoot lightning out of it.
Oh, that's awesome.
But then you come across another sword that has a trait that you like, and you can't decide. Well, you can distill the abilities in the first sword into gems, which you implant into your new sword, so that it combines the three of them. And I think that's a really nice idea.
That is cool.
So also, if you've got too many magic items, just put it all in one. Just stick them all on a pair of like unbelievably like bejeweled boots.
Imagine that. Imagine the size of the
bling.
Yeah.
Well, the cool thing is it also means like within universe now you can tell if somebody's packing because it's the guy with all the jewels on his boots. Do you know what I mean?
Mate,
I think it's fucking cool.
That's a really cool idea, man.
Yeah. It's that was one thing I was like, I might play this, but then I looked at the character sheet and I was like, no.
Do you remember the character sheet I made for Winter Eternal?
For some reason I was thinking about that the other day. I was going to mention it. You've got quite a talent at making character sheets, so that's what I was thinking earlier with the Wolves of God game. Maybe I'll get you to do one, but how complicated was it though to make a Pathfinder one?
Yeah, it was extremely complicated. So much so that it's literally like made on grid paper. Because you have to be very specific with the box sizes.
Every single inch of that paper's used. Yeah.
There's like no waste of space on that at all.
Check out Winter Eternal for Pathfinder, and have a look at the character sheet or just have a look at a Pathfinder character sheet. They're ridiculous. They're stupid. Yeah. There's too much. You can tell it's bloated, but there you go. Ace. He says, have you ever encountered a DM or player along the lines of Arcadum, and how would you deal with them in your group? You know about Arcadum, right? You on that pod? Yeah, you were.
Of course.
I can't remember, man. Everything's a blur now. But yeah,
it was just me and you, bro.
Have you? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? Yeah. Fucking hell. But yeah, so have we ever encountered anyone like that? Like super fucking creepy?
Yes, Gamma.
Yeah, Grammar. Good point. Yeah. So I forget the guy's name, but he was running Grandma World.
Yeah. Essentially, he's this fucking creepy guy who spent most of his time trying to connect to the Wi-Fi at the hotel that we were staying at.
Fudged the entirety of the game. Was racist.
He was hella racist, and spent all his time trying to get to the Wi-Fi just to show us an inside of a colon.
Yeah, because he was like, you go into the bowels of the cave, man, and showed us a picture of a colonoscopy, and I hope to God it wasn't
And
his.
so how we dealt with it at the table, unfortunately we weren't given X cards, but I would have just slapped it down straight away. But
James killed him.
Yeah, murdered. No, we just the three of us who were friends at the table just really tried to just move the story on.
Just move on.
We'd interject to be like, yeah, cool, yeah, well, I'll shoot him, he's dead.
Well,
right, let's move on.
The problem is that it was two British people and one Canadian, so we don't speak up. That's the trouble. So at the end we were even like, thanks for the game, mate. But
Yeah.
it was awful. How I deal with players like that tends to be, if it's a one shot, you just grin and bear it. never ever play a game with them again.
Yeah, just be like, yeah, cool, well, finished.
Yep, and then talk about them on a podcast years later, slagging them off.
No, but I think in this day and age, if we encountered it now, I like to feel that I'd be like, excuse me, mate, can you stop this really inappropriate? Like,
Yeah.
I would just say it, especially, say for instance, next Savage Con, if that ever happened at a table, I'd fucking tell him straight away. I'd be like,
Especially
I'm not having
because
that.
at the con we have people of all ages as
Yeah,
well. But I
that's
think
what-
people are mostly respectful.
Yeah,
Anyway.
well, I'd never expect it to happen at like Savage Con. But if I came across anyone doing that, I would just speak up now. I'm too fucking, I can't deal with like pandering or pussyfooting around. I'll just tell you how it is.
Well, and like players being creepy to women doesn't happen at a table by virtue of the fact there's no women there. No, I mean, I don't think we've ever had like a situation where somebody's been like that creepy to a player. And to be fair, as much as that Grammar World guy was doing gross stuff, it wasn't necessarily leery, perverted, or anything like this.
No, it was just like it's the fact that he was trying to be gruesome too much, and he was just being hella racist, and we were really trying to turn that off without explicitly asking him to just fucking shut up. We were just trying to like go around that and not repeat.
We were just
any of
doing
it.
what our characters were doing, talking about because
Yeah.
his justification was like, you're old people. And, you've got outdated views. And it's like, okay, fine. You acknowledge that they're outdated, but you want us to sit there and do it. And it's like, you know what? Like, some of the jokes we tell to each other are really bad.
Oh yeah, they're really bad.
But
and
it's,
stuff,
but it's in private. And this guy wanted us to sit around the table. And he's like, there's a fucking beaner there, man. And it's like, well, especially we don't really get many Mexican people in this country. So it's also like not something I hear very often is, racism towards Mexican people. So it was really shocking. I was just like,
Yeah, that was actually genuinely something that shocked us. I was just like, nah, not doing that. So we just said, yeah, cool, and then just
Yeah, and then I was just like-
weren't racist. That's it.
yeah. Sorry, mate, but I'm not being racist.
As you can tell, we're so fucking British because we were just like, oh yeah,
We're just, great game, mate, thank you. Yeah, it's like you never speak up. No. What do you do when you get a shitty meal at a restaurant? You eat the entire thing, then just don't go back. We've answered this one before as well, but CJ the big boy, he says favourite snacks to bring to the game table, and I think this is kind of good because we'll evolve a little bit as time goes on. But I wanted to talk about Cyberpunk Red. So for the first session, I wanted to do something a little bit special. So
yes.
in the video game, it might be mentioned somewhere within the books, but in the video game, there's a drink called the Silver Hand Special. And it is a tequila old-fashioned topped up with beer and garnished with a jalapeno, but I didn't actually, unfortunately, I grow some jalapenos, but they weren't ready. So, it was a very nice cocktail. So I bought that and I said, for the first game, only like bar-type snacks. And James, you bought like pretzels and nuts and things like this.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make it all like, manly and rock and roll. And we had these strong-ass cocktails, so that was nice.
That was awesome.
One thing I will say is that annoys me is there's so many websites that have recipes for the Silverhand special out there, and they keep calling it the Johnny Silverhand. That's not what the fucking drink is called. Anyway, favourite snacks. What are yours at the moment, Jay?
Favourite snacks is your posh biscuits.
You can't beat a posh biscuit.
Like the ones that are fully coated in
Viennese
chocolate.
well.
Yeah, them kind of fuckers. And then everyone loves a crisp type snack. It doesn't matter what flavour or whatever it is, but some kind of potato chips, and that suits us.
What are those ones that we keep getting at the moment? The ones that are like puffed up.
Puffed up dickheads, mate.
You know the spicy ones? They're like puffed up in it.
Puffed up, yeah,
Like
baked. They're like baked in it.
Yeah.
There's something good.
Yeah. So that's the answer, really. Fucking. I'm also quite a big fan. Like when I used to bake bread, just slap a loaf of bread and just have people tear at it. If you're doing a fantasy game, it's like.
That's quite good. Yeah, a bit of bread and hummus.
Yeah.
I remember I did just whacked up a load of garlic bread on the table with some hummus. And that was good.
Do you remember when I bought carrots and hummus?
Yeah.
And it was only me and you that ate it.
Yeah, I'm just like, well, we're the posh cunts.
And we kept on putting carrots in our drinks for some reason.
Oh, we're awesome.
But yeah, my favourite snacks, I think you've got to go with stuff without a sauce. We're talking about Maps and Minis this time.
So
where people get fucking raw sauce all over my shit.
Raw sauce Sean used to fucking... It was cool, really nice of him, because he'd get tortilla chips and...
Tortilla.
And then he'd also get a dipping sauce with it. But there was always a mess. And I was just, at the end of the day, or end of the session, it'd be like, right, cool, you just go, best wipe that up, mate.
His sheets are disgusting. Like, they really are. Like, they're stained all over the place. I always, like, sort of have to end up rewriting them because I'm just like, I don't even like that being in my fucking bag.
I'm quite a big... Sorry.
You're quite a big what?
Nasty.
Yeah.
My brain just overtook me. I'm quite a big fan of individually wrapped snacks at the minute.
Yeah, like
they're really
a multi-pack of crisps.
Because, like, obviously in the pandemic and when we were gaming at a table with masks on, I did that. So individually bagged, so you'd pick and choose what you want, and therefore your germs were on your own.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite nice because then instead of everyone, holding hands by accident in a nut bowl, you could just have your own small packet and then just just wolf that down. And then it's all pretty.
Well, I like the germs though. I mean, it gives you that flavour. So, like with the bar snacks, for example, apparently there's this fact, right? In America, because you have to serve food with a drink in certain states, that's why you have nuts at the bar. It's like to get around that thing. So people dip in and out of the nuts, and apparently there's like more germs on there than there is on a toilet seat.
Oh yeah, just what I want.
So if you want to get the authentic feel of being in a scummy dive bar in Night City, piss in your hands.
Put them in the bowl a few times.
Fondle them up.
Scratch the gooch.
You really got to scratch that gooch.
Yeah.
You got to get all that crust off.
Wow. That's why they're so crunchy.
But yeah, also fucking Jaffa cake bars.
Oh yeah, they're a good.
This is something that our American listeners may not be familiar with, but Jaffa cakes are probably my favourite snack of all time. Yeah, and every time we go shopping, I get a whole pack and eat an entire 24-pack of them.
Do you like them 1 or 2 metre tubes they do at Christmas?
I fucking love them.
Yes.
All right, we got a couple more questions here. Judge Matthew, he says, phones or no phones at the gaming table, James?
Well, obviously it would be no phones. Sometimes you use them for music purposes, which is fine, and other times it's... it's like, oh, I'm expecting a call or something urgent. It's like, cool, it's fine.
I think it's fine to have it out, but not to sit there texting, like, say, for example, 2 years ago when you got up with your missus.
Shut up.
James was so in love, man. It was quite sweet, but also he was on his phone like, typing essays to each other. Do you still do that?
Yeah. Look, it's within reason, isn't it? You've got to have, you just be like, right.
If it's something urgent that needs attending to, but often it'll be like, and she's not here right now, so I can say, well, she is here. She's in the other room, so I better talk quietly. But often it'll be my wife ringing me, and listeners, she's disabled, so I often think, oh my God, what's happened? And she'll come in and she'll be like, how do you turn the television on? It won't be something that bad, but it can be something like that. Like, where's my mug?
Where's my molasses?
Yeah. So, but I think phones at the table as long as you can be a fucking adult about it. But he says, do you have a probation system for new players to make sure they fit in with your group?
Well, we don't really. We don't often switch our players around, to be honest. But
the most recent addition to our group, we've played a campaign with before. He wasn't really a mainstay before, but he loves Vampire the Masquerade, so we had him along for that campaign.
Yeah.
And
we actually, not to big ourselves up as our OG group, but genuinely, not just ourselves that have evolved, but I do believe that we, as our original group, has helped him be a better role player.
Yeah, he says he's really fighting that urge inside to min-max and metagame. So, yeah, he also likes 5e a lot. So when I ran that campaign, I invited him along, and then once the campaign finished, I asked the guys, like, is everyone cool for him to stay? And we agreed that from now on it's a game-by-game basis. Every GM can invite whoever the fuck they want. But, we don't. But funnily enough, when this group first started, and I was running Call of Cthulhu, I did meet Nick for like an interview at the pub.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Like, because I didn't know what he was like, so I was like, I want to meet this guy.
That's genuine as well. Like, I actually met him. Just be like, well, he's an outsider that Ryan has introduced to the hobby, and he seems to like the idea, never ever done it once ever, so this would be his first time.
Well, because if you wanted to invite, because I've known you since we were like babies, if you wanted to invite one of your friends to the group, I'd take your word for it. But at the time, because it was a friend of Ryan's who I had only known for about 2 years, because I worked with him, I was like, I don't know, this guy could be like anybody. So yeah, I did once do an interview, but looking back on it, it's a little bit cringe that I did that.
Yeah, but that was the birth of our group.
Yeah, it was. It was.
So that's fine.
It was kind of funny because, that game, I got so many people interested in it that I never thought I would, because I just put out a group email to work and I was like, look, I'm running this game, Call of Cthulhu, does anyone want to
you
join?
had to cancel it because you had too many people.
Yeah, and I didn't want to say, no, you're not invited, so I just cancelled it, then messaged all of you lot privately, like, yeah, do you want to join this? Banjo, he says, just one more rape?
No more rape.
Okay. He's got quite a complicated question, but this will be the one that we use to wrap up the show. I know we've been going long, dear listener, but he says, has the Forgotten Realms become one big furry convention with all the monsters that are now player races? Yes. I mean, I spoke about that earlier, that game we played where everyone was playing monsters, and it was confusing. It was ridiculous. Nobody was a bad guy anymore.
That it really, you do want some separation of it,
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just going to be like, if you're actually playing in one of those games where everyone can play everyone, then realistically, at least I would be like, there's an altercation happening, but then you just be like, yeah, but what's the root cause? Like, are you actually evil? Let's talk this out. And then it's just going to be a game about dialogue.
Talking about your feelings.
And it's also going to be a lot of like politics involved as well.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think it makes it a little bit boring. It also destroys some of the wonder from the game of seeing things and thinking, oh my God, what is that going to do?
Yeah, well, you need to see like this absolute disgusting creature like leeching out of something, destroying stuff, and yes, we need to stop it. Because in those situations like when it's happened, it's like, oh, maybe you just need a breath of fresh air.
That's part of what I like about fantasy is sometimes, you do like to have like grey areas morally and stuff like this. But what I like about fantasy is that clear delineation between good and evil. I mean, it comes from fairy stories, right? So it's like, it's good just to have a world where that exists, you know what I mean? But there we go. But apparently we can't do that anymore. He also follows up, will there be a point sometime soon where there are more independent RPG publishers of online content than there are actual RPG players?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. I know so many people that write modules but only play once every 6 months.
Yeah, that's
Vengeance
true.
Satanis is a good example. He plays maybe, twice, 3 times a year, and he puts out content like nobody's business. He says, once the original creator of a founder of a company or product dies or leaves the company, should the company have to change the name of the product or company? I.e. Gary Gygax was forced out of TSR, but they got to keep Dungeons & Dragons, the game he created. And now it's in the hands of people who had nothing to do with it at all. Or Walt Disney has been dead for decades, but Disney still exists, and Mickey Mouse has his other creations and Mickey Mouse and his other creations are not public domain and probably never will be.
Well, I think it's kind of, they built up a brand name basically, so yeah.
I mean, it's the company's property now.
Yeah, and it's like, as long as the company don't shit on it, then they should be allowed to, I wouldn't say entitled to, but should be allowed.
But the trouble is, once it becomes a game designed by a committee rather than a single person, that's when it loses all its character. I mean, I've got that book that my mum got me, the Art and Arcana for D&D, and you look at the amount of heart and soul in the original artwork versus what it is now. You couldn't tell one artist from the next in a D&D book because they all paint that very exact same way. And it's like lost a lot of the character and the magic of it, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would prefer it not to be the case, but if a company buys it, then they own the shit, right?
Yeah, that's just how it works.
So one time, at some point, when we get bought out by Virgin or whatever, right, and then they're doing Jim Bim Salabim, of course it's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt. They're not going to really like it. It probably won't even be British.
No, it won't. So that is the answer
to all of your problems.
He's got one more question. He says, have you ever found a way to make languages interesting in gameplay, like your elf knowing goblin helping in some way?
We have. I think there's quite a few times where it's entertaining to try and force a player at a table to
roleplay a fake language.
Yeah, to roleplay a fake language, and then as long as, because it's not always it's definitely not up to the GM to remember everything. It's always down to the players to help everyone to help each other and be like, oh yeah, I know how to speak in this language. Can I try and use that? And then a lot of the time we do just roll it, but we have a few times like forcibly spend, right, do it in character.
When you played a half-orc in Pathfinder and we were just like
oh, that was really fun.
And it's like, that basically translates to hello.
Yeah, that was quite fun. Like a little comedic
I don't know if that's interesting more than it is stupid, but I find DCC, I've had more interesting use of languages than any other game based solely on the fact that because it's often like, now pick another language at character creation, and
Yes,
they get really weird. Like, yeah.
Like Pixie is one of them, isn't it?
Pixie, that actually came up in the actual play, and there was another time on a non-recorded thing where somebody spoke spider.
Ugh.
And spoke to one of the spiders and got him to fuck off. He was like, "Hey, it's cool, man. Sorry about that. I thought you was gonna kill me."
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, language is a thing where it's, I don't know. It just almost never is actually that fun, but I guess it can be useful.
It can be.
Well, I mean, we had it recently with the bloody Cyberpunk campaign because Sledge speaks Spanish, and he tried to roll Spanish to help talk to these biker gang that were Mexicans, and he rolls a fail on it and just hits his knee, and he goes, "No hablo es
Ah, fuck!
Yeah, I can't believe you've done this." Right, anyway, that is it for your questions. Thank you so much for very interesting, fun questions this time.
Yeah.
Thanks for change.
And thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in. You have been listening to the sounds of the 3T RPG podcast. And of course, I figured we'd do something a bit different this time. James, do you want to plug your music? I know you haven't updated it in ages, but some of the tunes on there are very good.
Which one?
Jack Me Laser.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, check that out.
Just type that into Google, Jack Me Laser, as one word.
And you'll find his SoundCloud. There's some really good tunes on there. So, I think the one you got to listen to is The Storm. I'm going to use it as the outro to this episode, but it's such a banger of a tune, and it's like...
It was an old song that me and some old friends in college days made together.
Now, bear in mind, when you listen to it, that James was told that it was going to be like a really aggressive song, and he recorded his vocals separately to everyone else. Yeah,
so we wrote them all separately, but they failed to explain like the context behind it. They just went, it's a really hype song, and they generally, those hype songs, you just badmouth and you're just an aggressive dick, and that's it.
So he went full like Tekashi 6ix9ine on that shit, and it's very amusing because the other two are very laid-back stoner types, I think we can say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is it. Also, check out 3T RPG Publishing on
Drive-Through
RPG. And of course, if you want to submit questions, you go to the Discord.
The link in the description, and also incoming soon on the platforms as well.
Yeah. That's true. Alternatively, you can go to... Just type in discord.gg/4EBU.
Fucking hell, no.
I've been Harrison Hunt.
I've been James Clark.
And this is the end
of life as we know it.
All right.
Remember.
That was good, I think. Right. This is Harrison here, just coming in after the intro, just to say that I couldn't actually track down that strange rap song James had made. So I was going to do like an impression of it from memory, but you really do have to hear the original because it's fucking amazing. Also, I couldn't be bothered to go and get my microphone out, so if it sounds bad, it's your fault, isn't it? So